What's going on, guys? Y'all know who it is, man. Stunna Breezy, baby. We gonna get right to it, man. You know, it's a lot of stuff going on. But what I'm going to do today, like when I be referencing stuff in my videos sometimes, man, y'all don't know what I be talking about or what these people be saying. Like, where you get that from? What are you saying? What are you talking about? So I figure I do like a reaction video, a response video, like, and you will see where I agree and disagree, and you let me know your comments. You listen, let me know your comments. Now, this is Mr. ClearValue Tax. I think that's his name, ClearValue Tax. I think, yeah. I watch him all the time. I don't like him or dislike him. He cool, but boy, he make good news sound bad. Like, he always just on edge. Like, bro, what's wrong with your life? It's like he the kind of guy going walking to his third grade, his 33-year-old daughter's birthday, like, happy birthday. I mean, didn't you just have a birthday? Like, how many of these things? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you watch it, you know I'm telling the truth. Anybody that watch it know I'm telling the truth. But I'm gonna let him talk. I'm gonna let it play, and then we're gonna go over and see what's going on. See where I agree and disagree. I step in where I disagree, and I let it play when I agree. Let's see what's going on.
Up 2.1%. Today's thing from this meeting is that they changed their projection. They got it wrong again. You know, no surprise. They were expecting to cut interest rates 3 times this year. That was their projection, the official projection. And now they released this morning. Okay, so the Fed funds interest rate right now is at 5.5%. Their projection has it coming down 1 interest rate cut to 5.25% by the end of the year. Before today's revision, they were expecting to cut it 3 times to 4.75%. So this is a big change. Another big question that everybody wants to know is when are they going to start the interest cutting process? And their official statement says that they will start cutting interest rates when they have gained greater confidence that inflation is moving sustainably towards 2%. So basically, they're just not confident about that right now. And then next year in 2025, their projection says 4 interest rate cuts in 2025. I mean, whether that's going to happen, I mean, clearly they've been wrong about 2024, so I don't know how.
Okay. A lot to unpack right now. But I'm just going to say this. How you going to say they've been wrong about 2024? You're wrong. That's a wrong statement. The Fed is 90% reactionary, 10% proactionary. They have to go on what the data shows them. They just can't, they ain't just willy-nilly. They ain't running no coffee shop on the corner. They have to guide the United States economy, bro. Like, these YouTubers kill me. Like, this is just something they just, okay, well, you need some money, so we're going to cut interest rates so you can gain this. Bro, whether you like it or not, the economy is still good. People are still spending money. Like, that's the reason they can't cut interest rates. Yeah, they want to. Yes, they want to cut interest rates bad. That don't mean they were wrong. See, that's the problem. People want them to talk. So they come out, they do the Fed meetings, they give the minutes and stuff, and like before the year, they'd be like, okay, well, we want to try to do 3 interest rate cuts this year if the data shows that. So if the data don't show that and then they can't do it, oh, they were wrong, they lied, they got it wrong. How they get it wrong? The data shows they can't cut. There's nothing wrong. When they cut the rates, they have to say why. Like, bro, I'm not even an economist and I know this. These people have millions of views and millions of and people are following this. When they cut the rates, they got to come out and say why we cut rates. If they don't have a clear reason to why they cut rates, they're not going to cut them. Like, it's just that simple. Let's move on, shall we?
How much you believe their projection for 4 cuts next year. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. The Federal Reserve is projecting that the unemployment rate will be 4.0%, so 4% by the end of the year. of this year. But I want to point out that we're already at 4%, so there's no room for error. They expect the unemployment rate to be at 4.2% by the end of next year. Again, I mean, that's not much room for error. The Fed's preferred measure of inflation is PCE core inflation. Their last projection expected it to fall to 2.6% by the end of this year. Today, they revised it upward. So basically, they expect higher inflation from 2.6% to 2.8%. Now,
why don't you?
That happened, the CPI inflation report that was released this morning. So the CPI inflation report for the month of May was released this Wednesday morning, June 12th. CPI headline inflation came in at 3.3%. So I want you to keep in mind that this year in January, the rate of inflation, CPI headline inflation, was at 3.1%, and today we're at 3.3%. So with that being said, I'll say two things. The first thing is that that's not a lot of progress for this year. Inflation, well, CPI headline inflation actually went up. And the second thing is that inflation is at 3.3%, and that is still well above their 2% target.
All right. See, you're trying to be slick again. Here's the thing. Of course, they want it at 2%. But the thing is, they're shooting for the stars. 3 to 4 to 5% is going to be, guys, you got to understand. The economy resets every few, it used to be every few years. Now it's like every decade or so, maybe every 5-6 years. It resets. That's why a loaf of bread ain't a nickel anymore. You get what I'm saying? There's no time in history where the prices stayed the same for a 10-year period. It's not. Think about growing up. There is no time in history that your parents, your grandparents, your uncle wasn't complaining about prices. Boy, when I was there, a bottle of Coca-Cola cost 25 cents. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about? What is this fantasy? Like, it's almost like if it's not perfect, then it's broken. There's no gray area. Because people are trying, it's political. Everybody trying to make a point. And so when you judging something against perfection, it's always going to be wrong. There's no such thing as a perfect economy. The stock market is at an all-time high. You had 187 companies hit all-time highs today. Today. Like not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. The NASDAQ. All-time high. Dow, all-time high. S&P, all-time high. All my life, that's what we measure the economy on. Jobs and the stock market. Now they want to throw in the price of coal and, you know what I'm saying? Anything to try to make this president look bad or something. I don't know. Like, even if you're a Trump guy, I can understand if you like Trump and you want to vote for Trump. That's fine. But what is he going to do? Well, you can't do no better than all-time high. What is he going to do? You got nowhere to go but down. Everything is already all-time high. There's no new person can come in and make it better. It's not going to happen. Oh, man, my rent high. So, I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to let this play. I'm going to get to that. I'm glad I said that because I'm going to get to that in a minute.
So that's why the Federal Reserve could not cut interest rates today because inflation's just too high. And again, this was expected. We covered this in our last video. But listen, I'll give the Federal Reserve a fair shake. The Federal Reserve prefers to look at core inflation, right? Core inflation takes out food and energy prices, and that came in at 3.4%. And that was progress because it was at 3.9% in January. Now, I want to tell you this because it's so important that you understand this. And I'm going to tell it to you just very straightforward. The Federal Reserve will start cutting interest rates in two events. So the first event is if they get inflation under control and they don't feel so confident that they have, so they're not cutting interest rates. So the second event is if there's an emergency, something breaks in the economy or the financial markets, and they have to cut interest rates to save the day, right? Okay, but we're going to focus on this event, getting inflation under control. So this is why the CPI inflation report is so important. So I want to give you a summary of what happened with this report that was released this morning. I'm going to give you the four biggest components of the report that you need to know. So we're going to start with energy. So the report says that energy prices are up 3.7% year over year. So that might not sound bad. You know, energy going up 3.7%, but that's actually very bad, and I'll tell you why. In January, energy prices were down by 4.6%. So that's negative 4.6%. And today it's up 3.7%. So that is that's an 8.3% swing. So this year, energy prices are up by 8.3%. So that is fast, and that is a lot. So that's why it's so terrible. Now, let me tell you about food. And before you laugh or write a nasty comment down below, just hear me out. Just listen to this. So the report says that food prices are up 2.1% year over year. So listen, I'm going to try to keep it professional here, but I have to be honest, okay? So some of the figures like this, they're just very difficult for me to believe. Like food prices, like seriously, like food prices are up 2.1% year over year. Like I'm skeptical. Like that's just how I honestly feel. So sometimes I feel like I'm wasting my time or I'm just wasting my life just reading you these bogus numbers. But then again,
You see, you can only talk for so long before the truth come out. You see what I'm saying? This is about YouTube. This is about views and feeding the audience. You know, like when a comedian be telling jokes and then they go a little bit too far. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, well, you know what I'm saying? Because you're trying to feed the audience. So that's what he has to do to his audience. He got to feed that red meat. And when there's no more red meat, they always go to, well, I don't believe it. You get what I'm saying? It'll be like, and I'll keep going to this because I'm trying to make you see what I'm saying. It'll be like if Trump became president and then they say, oh, unemployment down to 1%. Everybody working. It's, you know, it'll be easy for me to say, oh, they lying. I don't believe that. I don't believe that's just how I am. I don't believe that. You see what I'm saying? But if Trump become president and they say, oh man, unemployment skyrocketed to 10%, everybody out of work. For my agenda, I'm gonna say, oh yeah, hey man, see, unemployment 10%. Now the same people say 1% and say 10%. But I don't believe when they say 1%. I believe when they say 10% because I have an agenda. You see what I'm saying? Everybody has an agenda. He has an agenda. And the longer you talk, it's gonna come out. That's why he just had to finally say, I don't believe it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna teach you. You're gonna learn something today. Let's keep going, shall we?
I think that it's very important that you know what the government is reporting, what they're saying, you know, even though they might not be fully accurate. So I hope you can understand my perspective. I'm just trying to be honest here. So the report says that food prices are up by 2.1%. Last report, it said food prices were up by 2.2% year over year. But I do want to point out that, and this is an undeniable fact, that the government changes the method in which they in how they calculate inflation, and that includes food prices. So you can look it up for yourself. It's in the report. You can just look up discontinued items. As I pointed out to you in the last reports, they took out ground coffee. The series ID was 717312. Now moving on to shelter. Shelter inflation is at 5.4%.
Now, hold on. Mic together. Now, you said all that just to say they took out ground coffee. You said all that about food costs just to say they took out ground coffee. Now, let's move on to... Whoa. Don't you think you should have... What you mean? What? Why you saying all that just to say they took out ground? Bro, that don't even make sense. You know it don't make sense. You think you want to flip the script to... I'll let you move on. All right. But, okay, they took out ground coffee. Everything just messed up because they took out ground coffee.
And that is very bad, in my opinion. The reason why I'm saying that is because it's not budging. If it's at 5.4% right now, just think about it. It was at 5.5% in the last report. As you know, home prices are not crashing. The price of rent is not crashing either. The cost of housing is still simply very unaffordable. And I just want you to look at it from this perspective. Shelter inflation is still going up by 5.4%. which is well above the 2% target. And shelter inflation is going up way faster than wages. So home affordability is at record lows right now for both renting and buying, and it's just getting worse. Okay, let's move on to service.
See, when they move on, you know, you didn't have a point. Like, what was your point to say that? See, they don't have a rebuttal. Here's the thing. Here's my rebuttal to that. What does the government have to do with rent and home prices? Nothing. Now, see, it's called capitalism. Everybody loves capitalism until it starts capitaling and capitalizing. That's what it's called. The government can't tell a landlord how much rent to charge. You want them to stay out your business, right? So you can't have it both ways. Stay out my business. Oh man, rent too high. How too high? I can sell my house for whatever I want, and the government can't tell me I can't. You see what I'm saying? So if everybody's selling their house at a high price and people want to buy them, that's what it's gonna be. But then they'll call that inflation. So how bad can it be if somebody is buying it? He just said himself there is no housing crisis because people are buying houses. So if people are selling houses, people are buying houses, what's the problem? You can't get mad and say it's a bad thing because I bought my house for $300,000 and I'm gonna sell it for $700,000 to Mr. Jones. So now you mad because you don't have $700,000. So it's a housing crisis. It's an unaffordability. How? Like if there's somebody to buy it, how? That doesn't make sense. If there were nobody to buy the houses, the prices would come down. If there were nobody to buy the houses, then they would lower interest rates. You know why they can't lower interest rates? Because the minute they lower interest rate, you have millions of people that can afford to buy houses. Like that's why there will be no housing crash. They're keeping interest rates high and trying to keep people, but people they still buying them. Even with the high interest rate, people are still buying houses, bro. You see what I'm saying? So that's the problem. So if they lower the interest rate, guess what's going to happen to the inflation? It's going to go sky high. Then they're going to say, oh man, the Fed got it wrong. So what they supposed to do? If they leave it the same, they get it wrong. They raise it, they get it wrong. They lower it, they get it wrong. Everybody is an expert. You see what I'm saying? Everybody is an expert when you're trying to get views and you feeding red meat to people that don't know common sense and don't know economics. You see what I'm saying? So you got to make up your mind. Do you want the government to get in and put in rent caps? Or no? The government can come in and say, hey, no rent can be above $1,000. Federal law. All right, next. Now what? You ain't gonna have no landlords. People the housing market really gonna crash because nobody want to own shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, what? I got a house over here in this nice community and blah, blah, blah. And I was getting $3,500 a month in rent. And now you say I can't charge but $1,000 just so you can say everything is affordable? There's no time in history where everything has been affordable to everybody. It's not supposed to be. Like, I don't understand this. Well, I understand it because it's YouTube and they talking to uninformed people. Really dummies. Dummies that believe this stuff, bro. Like, you're going to always be broke and poor. Like, nobody's going to hand you anything. I don't care how much he talking and he rich. You're poor. And so he got to keep you on that edge. Like, oh man, it's just so bad out here, man. It's just so bad out here. When trillions of dollars are changing hands and you still worried about coffee beans got taken out of the... Man. Oh my God. All right, keep going.
Services inflation. This is the huge problem area for the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve doesn't want people to get big pay raises higher than 2%, because if that happens, then it's going to push their inflation target above their 2% goal. So services inflation was at 5.3% this report. Last report it was at 5.3%. So there's no change. There's no progress. Okay, so those are the highlights of the inflation report today. And that gives you insights into why the Federal Reserve did not cut interest rates at today's meeting. So listen, here's what I'm going to do for you. So I'm going to do what I always do. I'm going to put together the highlights of the FOMC press conference today so that you can see the video clips straight from the source.
Okay, so I guess he finished and he gonna do some highlights, whatever. But okay, I'm gonna address that one last point. I ain't gonna let it slide, no sir. He said the federal government don't want you to get a pay raise above 2%, blah 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 blah. Actually, wages are up over 5% this year. Do your research, man. Do your research. Wages are up. Wages have outpaced inflation the past few months, bro. Like, do your research. But the federal government had no control over how much money you make. You see what I'm saying? You see how they blame the government for stuff that they have no control over? None. Make it make sense. See, it's so easy to blame the government when there's no blame to be had. What the government got to do with you getting a raise on your job? Think about that. None. Unless you have a government job. And probably one or two of y'all listen to me got a government job. Everybody else working in the private sector, which the government has no, they have until you file your taxes, they have no idea what your raise is, how much you made last year, how much taxes you paid. You get what I'm saying? And actually, to me, the government wants you to make more money so they can tax you more. Think about that. That don't even make sense. Why would they want everybody to make less money to collect less taxes? That is stupid. I just don't understand how they get away with this, bro. People actually believe this stuff. I don't know, man. I don't know. It just, we are the most uninformed generation ever. And I ain't saying I got all the answers. I love to hear a rebuttal. Tell me where I'm wrong. I might have missed something. Tell me where I am wrong. Was Stunna, you wrong about this? You wrong about that? All right, my bad. I messed up. But far as I know, the government ain't got no control over rent. You know what I'm saying? How much a house costs. You see what I'm saying? And think about these companies. Just like I just said, if you've been following the earnings reports, bro, damn near every company in the S&P 500 reporting record revenue. I ain't talking about just doing good one quarter. Record revenues and, more importantly, record profits. Profits. Not even revenue. Profits. So I'm confused. So if these companies are reporting record profits, how come wages ain't up? That's up to them. That ain't got nothing to do with the government. That's up to that company. You see? If I work for Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola just made the most money they ever have in their history, Coca-Cola gonna throw a little pizza party in the break room, give us some free Coke and try the new Coke and send us back out there and go to work. That ain't got nothing to do with Donald Trump. Nobody. With Joe Biden, Barack Obama. Nobody. You see? But for YouTube purposes, let's blame the government. You know what I'm saying? Wages and rent and stuff that they ain't got nothing to do with. And the minute they do, government intrusion. Oh, they overstepping their bounds. I knew it. Dictatorship. Oh, socialism. Here we come. You see? You see. Anyway, man, I hope I've enlightened you a little bit. Give you something to think about. Put your comments down in the description if you got something you want to say. But like the video. You should. Hey, this is some good information, man. Both sides. Think about it now. You might take his side, might take my side, but it's thought-provoking. So like the video. Comment, subscribe. Shout out to the notification gang, baby. Hit them notifications, because you don't know what Stunna gonna talk about today. You just never know. I might talk about NVIDIA. I might talk about MindQ. I might talk about the government. I might talk about LeBron James. I might talk about I ate too many pistachios today. I don't know. I'll let you boy, baby.